Hey, what's up, everybody? We're thankful that we can join you today for No Filter. This video is when we talk about relationships.
Mhm.
We have another video during the week where we talk about parenting, but this one we talk about relationships.
Correct.
We talk about communication. We talk about how fight fair. We talk about expectations. We talk about sex. We talk about all kinds of stuff. So today we're gonna have part two.
Of communication.
Part one was last week.
Correct.
We talked last week. You want to have a review? But before we review it, we're missing something.
The joke.
I'm happy to say that I was a winner last week. Thank you
Aw.
very much. I'm happy to inform that just like the Dallas Cowboys, we are winners. So you gotta vote who won, whether her or I. All right? Thank you very much. And mine is gonna be like this. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Why did the Scarecrow win an award? And the answer is because he was outstanding in the field.
In his field.
In
His field.
in this field. In his field. I botched it. Oh, even with that, the joke is strong. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Mine is, did you hear about the guy who invented the knock-knock joke?
Mm-hmm. What happened to the knock-knock joke guy?
He won the Nobel Prize.
Obviously, an inferior joke. Obviously, an inferior joke. Thank you very much for voting for me because I had not won anything until last week. So let's keep the streak going. Because when I win, the Cowboys win. So this is like we have to.
Not even.
All right. So let's talk about communication. Last week we talked about two things not to do in communication.
Correct.
We talked about exaggerating,
Absolutely.
where we use phrases like "you never" or "you always." We talked about not interrupting and listening, not just to respond, but listening
To understand.
to understand.
Mhm.
But today we have two more, and these are things that have worked for us. Okay. The first one, I'll introduce it and then I'll let you expand on it in this short 15-minute video. We're just trying to put stuff that we learned in 28 years. We've had peaks and valleys
Mhm.
and great days and awesome days and terrible days, but we love each other and we've learned some things along the way. Hopefully, you don't make the same mistakes that we made. So here's the two for today. Let's start with the first one. The first one is, okay, so I don't have to use you always, you never. What do I use instead?
Correct.
One thing that I learned what to use is I statements.
Correct. I statements.
I statements. So just expand on that for the people.
I statements begin with obviously the word I. I feel, I notice, I'm frustrated. You start with I. One of the important reasons for doing that, at least for me, is when I look at myself and I say I, like when I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to have a conversation with Roger and I want to use I statements. I'm going to start with I'm frustrated. I get upset. It helps me to kind of not just look at the superficial reason why I'm upset.
That's very good. That's very good.
But to look at the real reason. Okay, so an example would be you leave your socks on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you leave your clothing on the floor. How about you leave nice little piles for me?
I never leave socks though. I always put socks away, but I leave other stuff.
You leave piles for me. You
Okay.
take off your clothes and you leave piles. But they just sit there. They stay there day after day and they don't get put away.
Mhm.
And time comes for us to clean the room. You're busy, you're doing whatever. I end up having to clean up the clothing, the stuff in the room.
But by the way, time out. If we were to put the camera around, you would see what she's talking about. But this looks great. See, there's no piles anywhere. It's just Jordan's right here. All right, go ahead.
When I think to myself, I'm going to have this conversation with Roger.
Mm-hmm.
I think to myself, I'm going to use I phrases. I get frustrated when I see that. Why do I get frustrated? Because I find it a disrespect to me.
Correct. So that's the problem. That's the problem underneath the problem.
Correct. I feel disrespected, or I feel that you expect me to do it, or you have taken it for granted. I feel taken for granted when you leave these piles, because you know that I'm going to pick them up. So I feel taken advantage of, or underappreciated, or whatever that I is. That's an example. So one of the reasons why you want to use I first is because it should help us. It should help us self-reflect. Why is this upsetting me? Why am I wanting to have this conversation? Why do I want this fixed? What is the underlying reason as to why I am upset, hurt, disappointed? These are all, I am disappointed. I am hurt. I feel taken advantage of. I feel underappreciated. I feel neglected. So these are all things. But if we start with the I, that helps us to get to the real reason why we are upset.
Correct. So you notice these two different perspectives or phrases. Like one could be like, you never want to have sex with me, versus I feel that we're not having enough sex or enough intimacy.
Correct. Or unattractive because you don't want to have sex with me. That's the underlying feeling I'm having.
Correct.
Or reason why I'm upset.
Because last week we were talking about you never want to have sex with me. That immediately puts walls. So when you use I statements and you express your feelings, it's much easier for the other person to receive it, to understand it, to try to get in touch and connect with what you're feeling. And if the other person is practicing what we talked about last week, which is I'm trying to listen, not to respond, but listen to understand, and use I feelings. The combination of that is beautiful. Does that always happen in the Hernandez family?
No,
absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
But it happens much more than it used to.
Correct.
Right? So this leads us to our second point.
Exactly.
Which is celebrate progress.
By the way, just a little timeout here. I just want to say that by us doing these talks, it's sharpening our tools. We're reminding ourselves of, these are all the things we've been learning.
Exactly.
These are all things we should be doing.
Exactly.
So I've been applying them much more since I've been sharing them with you. I just want to let you know that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for subscribing. All right. See what you've done to our marriage? You've improved it, right? Just by subscribing to the channel and hitting like and commenting, it has allowed us to have a flourishing marriage. We have avoided any type of issues. Okay. So the second one is celebrate progress. Especially in a perfectionistic mindset, which I grew up in. I'm perfectionistic with myself. I tend to get upset at myself when I don't reach the perfection that I want to. That's a battle that I'm going to have the rest of my life. Have I improved? Yes. Do I need to get better? Absolutely. What happens is one of the two, or either one of the two, is the other one has pointed out something that they need to improve in, and you've received it, and you say, all right, I'm going to work on not interrupting.
Yep, correct.
And one day you don't interrupt, and the other day you don't interrupt, and the other day you don't interrupt, and it's been a 4-day streak where there's no interruptions. And all of a sudden, on day 5, interruption. And what happens with my perfectionistic mindset that is ingrained in me? I tend to push away the progress of 4 days and say, see?
There you go again.
There you go again.
When are you ever going to stop? What is it going to take for you to never do that again, to get rid of it, to never have it come back? And that is actually really hard for the other person, because it makes them walk on eggshells. At least that's how I feel.
Correct.
When it makes me feel like I have to be on my best behavior. Otherwise, they're going to be very upset that I've made that mistake again. It doesn't leave room for grace and mercy.
Mhm.
We shouldn't take advantage of the grace and mercy that is provided in a marriage. We should be looking for progress every time that we have a conversation.
And celebrate it.
Exactly. And celebrate that.
Today, I celebrate the fact that I washed the dish, that you washed the dish. No, I washed the dish.
You washed the dishes.
Yeah, I celebrate that. Yesterday, I did not. And I failed my responsibility as a dishwasher. I failed it. And I wasn't beat up over the head today with that, but it was celebrated that I did wash him today.
Yes, it was.
So that's one thing, that when we celebrate progress, we encourage the behavior that we want to see.
Correct.
But I will tell you, depending on your personality, that is very hard to do.
Mhm.
And what I found is often in religious spaces and in non-religious spaces and just relationship spaces, when we have a perfectionistic attitude towards ourselves,
Yeah.
like what we hate in ourselves, we police and punish in others. And you have to be constantly aware about your direction and your first thought of, like, man, but I thought she, but I thought he, but I thought she, but I thought we. And instead of celebrating perfection, because the last 5 days we had a really pleasant experience, but today some of the things that used to bother us came back. But today is just one day, so I celebrate the 4 days, and then we'll move on to tomorrow, because tomorrow there'll be another day.
So a couple of things that you can do when you see that maybe your partner has repeated an action or a habit that you don't like. You have the option of not necessarily pointing it out at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
showing some grace in that moment. So they'll just make that mistake,
Mm-hmm.
and you just overlook it. But what tends to sometimes happen is, if we overlook it too much and we don't say anything, we can fall back into the habits. That has been the case with me. Sometimes I need you to keep me in check. It has been helpful. I like to be kept in check in a loving way, not in a stern, I'm mad at you, look at, you're going back to the old ways. That's frustrating. I'd rather it be called out. Hey, this is a habit that I know that you're working on. It's
Mhm.
coming up again. I just want to bring it to your attention. That for me is very helpful. When it comes out in an angry mode, an explosive, or because it's been, put aside for too long, that doesn't help me. It makes me feel really, really bad. It makes me feel like, okay, you should have helped me catch it sooner. That helps me. I don't know if that's helpful for you. It might sound like nagging to you. That doesn't sound like nagging to me. When my husband reminds me, you're going back into some of the habits that upset me, just want to bring it to your attention that I'm noticing this.
Yeah.
When you say it like that, that works.
One of the blessings of having 28 years of marriage
Mhm.
is that you start to see patterns and seasons. And I know, for example, that she hates it when I leave the toilet seat down, right? Or don't
Or up.
up. That bothers her. And I might do the right thing for 5, 6, 7 days, and then one day I forget it, and then I need to be reminded. But I also know that when we have like huge events, it's probably not going to be like a great moment to get romantic, because you're really concentrated on this huge event. So now that we see the patterns, we used to freak out much more, like, what's happening, what's going on with us. But now we see the patterns, and then we get used to it. Okay, I get it, that you're busy, so we're going to wait until this happens, and then we're going to schedule some times for ourselves. This last 2 weeks, for example, we're living in the same house, but we hardly saw each other because I was
busy.
recording and she was really busy. So what we're doing is, after this really busy season, and we had some evangelism and we had some stuff that we need to do, next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, we're going to go on a 4-day weekend, because we work like 12 days straight. We're going to go on a 4-day weekend to spend some time with ourselves, go somewhere in nature. It's very refreshing very rejuvenating. We can reconnect, and then we hit it again. Because if you just go, 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 which is what we used to do when we first got married, go, 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 and you just push down the problems, they when they erupt, they tend to be much, much bigger. All right. Well, that has been the video for today. If you appreciate the channel, the stuff that you share, you're welcome to write down some questions. We do this in English and we do it in Spanish. So the next video you'll see is going to be in Spanish. So whether you speak English or Spanish, you can share with people in your life that can speak either language. So subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think. And remember that God has infinite patience on us, and he's always trying to communicate to us. And I want to extend to my spouse the same grace that God extends to me.
Right. Have a good night. That was a mistake. You don't say good night because you know when you're watching.
Okay.